My friends, yesterday was a bad day for the Democrats, which means it was a great day for America. My name, in case you were wondering, is still Howard RIELL. Same guy was on the radio yesterday. The show is called Real Truth. I am happy to be with you, especially happy since the Democrats are showing the entire world what jackasses they are. Item from Breitbart. Democrats are reeling after a horrendous day for their party on Capitol Hill, with former special counsel Robert Mueller's testimony unraveling their case against President Donald Trump, all while Republicans seek to capitalize on the serious missteps by a group of committee leaders and Democrat leadership in the House. The bad day for the Democrats was shown in no better way than that Speaker Nancy Pelosi was a whopping 48 minutes late to a planned 5 p.m. press conference after Mueller's testimony, where she was flanked by the chairman of the two committees, before which Mueller testified, and a third who has helped with the investigation, unquote. Folks, I can get on this show an hour a day, 4 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and tell you that the Democrats are losers and fools, and it would not do the job as well as yesterday's hearings. They insisted on getting Mueller in front of a microphone to extend this whole Trump-Russia collusion nonsense, and it bit them in the backside, as I knew that it would. Trump is an immovable object. The Democrats are nowhere near an irresistible force. They are a bunch of out-of-gas, lackluster simpletons. Hopefully Americans saw and took note. By the way, don't think that this will be the end of the Russia collusion narrative. Even now, there are more Democrats, even stupider ones, who still want to keep it alive because, after all, what the hell else have they got to say to Americans? Item. President Donald Trump's advocacy for the nation-state and restoration of sovereignty breaks from a globalist consensus held by both former Presidents George Bush and Barack Obama, according to Charlie Kirk, founder and president of Turning Point USA, in a Tuesday interview on SiriusXM's Breitbart News Daily with host Alex Marlow, unquote. You know those globalists I've been talking about on this show for nearly 11 years? You know, the people who want to invest all the power in the world in the failed United Nations, who want one world government where you and I wouldn't matter in the least. You know those guys, the elite, the Bilderberg, right? You know those folks? The wealthy, the unthinkably rich and powerful. Council on Foreign Relations, is it ringing a bell? Donald Trump is the sworn enemy of those bastards. He's all that's standing between them and us. Well, not all. We stand with Donald Trump to have a nation by the people, of the people, and for the people that is not swept aside by the rich and powerful who want to keep us under their boots. So when it comes time to voting, think of that. Item from Breitbart. Self-help guru Marianne Williamson told the LGBT media outlet The Washington Blade that the most significant relationship she has with the LGBT community is her daughter's multiple gay godfathers, unquote. So why should someone vote for Marianne Williamson? Well, here's why. Her daughter has 5 gay godfathers. Now, Democrats, you're listening to me. Certainly, that is enough of a reason for you to vote for her for president, right? Right? I'm glad her daughter has 5 gay godfathers, because kids need mentors. They need guidance. She needs to find out whether she should be using baby oil or KY jelly. Item. An illegal alien has been charged with kidnapping a 16-year-old girl and then attempting to sexually assault her in Cedar Falls, Iowa, police say. Saul Santos Vasquez Martinez, a 43-year-old illegal alien from El Salvador, is accused of grabbing a 16-year-old babysitter by the wrist and forcing her into his home, police told the Courier, unquote. My friends, I don't see how this could possibly have happened if we had border security. The Democrats don't want it. They're fighting tooth and nail to keep that border open so that more illegals can rape more American girls. Item from Reuters, Dateline, Warsaw, Poland. A conservative magazine in Poland distributed quote-unquote LGBT free zone stickers with its weekly edition on Wednesday amid a mounting backlash against gay rights in Central Europe's largest nation ahead of a parliamentary election this year. Unquote. My friends, I don't know how wise it is when you're talking about LGBT to also be speaking about a mounting backlash. Item from ABC News. The 12th known transgender person to violently die this year was found fatally shot in South Carolina. News outlets report 29-year-old Denali Berries Stuckey was found dead. No, I didn't make that name up. Was found dead Saturday on the shoulder of a North Charleston road. Deputy Chief Scott Deckard said Monday the investigation is ongoing. Item from the Daily Wire. Concerns over so-called drag queen story hour events hosted at libraries across the country were reignited earlier this month when photos of young children laying on top of adult male drag queens were exposed. The photos, which were posted on a Flickr account for Multnomah County Library located in Portland, Oregon, have since been deleted. LifeSite News, however, preserved the images, which they have condemned as child abuse before they were removed. My friends, let me repeat that for you in case you were absent when I read the first paragraph. Children laying on top of adult male drag queens in the library, laying on top of them. I want to see library officials arrested as accomplices in child abuse, sexual abuse of a child. The morons who thought that a drag queen story hour was a good idea need to face their day in court. They are responsible for this outrage. If we accomplish nothing else in this country, can we at least protect our children? At least! There was a time when that was considered important here in America. It's Thursday. It's Real Truth. We're off to a flying start. It's only going to get better. We'll be right back.
Do you remember the energy crisis of the 70s? Lots of people think we did. We did. Best way to perform is the best way to perform. 43 years later, a lot has changed. A lot of our competition has been given operated. You're still sitting best way to play. Founded in 1976, 303, 9, 5 apples.
My friends, with the whole Russian collusion narrative, which was garbage from the word go, the Democrats hoped and prayed that they could drive a wooden stake through the presidency of Donald Trump. Well, that's not where it went. Instead, it got jammed right up their asses. Here's Tucker Carlson. No, it's not a trick question, Mr. Mueller. At the center, the nucleus of this whole bizarre, strange tragedy is Fusion GPS, and Bob Mueller doesn't know who they are. Folks, even a lowly radio talk show host from Brooklyn knows the name Fusion GPS. Where has Bob Mueller been? Has he been a figurehead this whole time, bumbling and stumbling around while the Democrat scumbags working for him plotted the ruin of the Trump administration? Just like Tucker Carlson said, people have been thinking that Bob Mueller is some kind of hero, a knight in shining armor. Instead, he's another Democrat bumbling fool.
GPS. Not familiar with Fusion GPS. Well, it turns out that if you're watching this show right now, you almost certainly know more about the Russia investigation than the man who led the Russia investigation. You know that Fusion GPS is the Democratic oppo firm that paid Christopher Steele to produce the Trump dossier. Fusion GPS is the reason we're talking about Russia right now. In fact, Fusion GPS is the reason we had a Mueller investigation in the first place. But, of course, you knew that because you're paying attention. Somehow Robert Mueller himself did not know that. What does that say about Robert Mueller? Well, this isn't a medical program, so we're not going to speculate about it. What we can say for certain, though, is that Robert Mueller never should have been testifying before Congress today. He didn't want to come. He came because Democrats forced him. They knew his condition. They were happy to exploit him anyway, and they did. To the left, the individual is always far less important than the mission, and the mission never changes, acquiring political power. Watch the congenitally shameless Jerry Nadler of New York use Mueller as a kind of human backboard. Throw the question, get it back.
The report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
My friends, while you're listening to this, know that Gerald Nadler, Democrat from New York, is one of the real pieces of snot in our government. He is the swamp. He is a liar. He doesn't care for America. He's happy to destroy America so that he and his Democrats can have power. That's Gerald Nadler.
Now,
I cannot, but. That's the sum total of the Democrat case against Donald Trump. My friends, this is like a movie. This is like a movie where the big, bad, terrible villain is just about to destroy the superhero, and then it turns out he's not really a big, bad supervillain. He's really kind of a punk who gets bitch slapped out of the frame. This is like Wizard of Oz, with the big, bad wizard with power and smoke rising and omnipotent and all that stuff, and he's really just some old geezer behind the curtain. The only reason we think the Democrat Party has any life to it is because they have the loudspeaker on CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and NBC and CNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times. Those are the light show that the Wizard of Oz put on. Robert Mueller pulled the curtain aside for us yesterday. He's just another punk-ass politician. That's all he is. Doesn't even have all his marbles anymore. But he was happy to be used in an attempt to get his political masters the power they desperately crave. Well, there's only one way the Democrats are ever going to get power, and that's if people like you and me give it to them. God forbid.
It went on like this for more than 6 years.
This is NBC. ABC. MSNBC. MSNBC. ABC. MSNBC. So, folks, let me draw a common thread between all those comments you just heard from CNBC, ABC. The common thread, if they could speak, if those newscasters were honest, and they could speak to you, they would say, my fellow Americans, we are liberal jackasses. We've been lying to you for years, and you're either too ill-informed or apathetic to know or care. Well, they're right on the first part. Sadly, they're right on the second part, too. Millions of Americans, usually the brain-dead humanoids who voted for Hillary Clinton, they don't care about facts. And they don't care about the truth. All they care about is responding like Pavlov's dogs to what they hear on the media. Media says Trump's a racist. They will go to their grave swearing Trump is a racist. Folks, at the end of the day, the problem lies not in our stars, but in ourselves. Not in our politicians, not even in the media. It's us, we, the American people. Not interested in facts, not interested in truth, not interested in politics, don't know who your congressman is, don't know what the major issues of the day are, but Trump's a racist. Period. Countries die from this kind of thing. Countries wither, economies fall, good people are buried by the kind of mindset that I'm talking to you about. Time for America collectively to take its head out of its ass and know what's going on and know who's running things and why. If this Russia collusion debacle, this shambles, is to accomplish anything good, it's got to be to wake Americans up, a cold slap across the face. The people in power are using and abusing you and your family and your neighbors. They're taking advantage of you for their own agenda. Don't let them. That's the message. Let's finish up with Tucker.
At the very least, we now know the truth about Robert Mueller, a mysterious prosecutor with unchecked power, revealed at last to be a daft old man blinking in the sunlight once his curtain was torn away. It was a sad coda to the long and ridiculous Russia saga. An absurd story for certain, but not a harmless story, hardly. This years-long charade deeply hurt this country. It corrupted our most important institutions. It divided our people. But worst of all, it distracted all of us from our real problems, which are legion. Get in the car tomorrow morning and drive 5 hours in any direction in this country. Stop frequently. Look around. How's America doing, do you think? Now remember that all the sadness you just saw on your drive, the drug zombies and the homeless people, the payday loan places, the boarded up buildings, all the slow motion disasters unfolding unmistakably all around us, all of that has been completely ignored for years in favor of some stupid invented story about Russian spies that never even made sense and didn't even happen. Our ruling class did that.
All right, guys, we'll be right back with more Real Truth.
Your home built between 1965 and 1975. If so, you may have a little bit of fire in Canada. These homes are about 50 years old now. Using more electrical power than ever imagined back in the day. And a little bit of fire does not get back with time. They are much harder to insure and harder to sell as well. A little bit of fire repair are focus on the permanent mitigation of the fire hazard. All of them for now. all of them are about so if you are into those cold, into boxing, hopefully take care of you. People you can trust, Grandpa's phone account, 303-772-7952. That's 303-772-7952. Before hiring a realtor from a big corporation who outsources their jobs and pays little to no taxes, ask yourself, what is important in a realtor? You need a realtor who is honest and has integrity. A realtor who focuses on the client's lifestyle, not the realtor's lifestyle. It provides over-the-top service before, during, and after the transaction. You want a realtor that knows how to market your property. Hi, I'm James Morgan, a realtor with Grisham and Associates LLC. I am your Colorado real estate specialist. Big deals, mountain cabins, or urban dwellings, I've got you covered. For the first-time home buyer, we will think it's the best experience. If you are looking to move up or downsizing, we will do better than your last transaction. Call me today at 720-203-0731 or visit coloradoproperties.online. I'm going to do a great job for you.
All right, guys, welcome back to Real Truth. My parents taught me never kick a man when he's down. My parents aren't here, so I'm going to kick Robert Mueller some more. Here is Newt Gingrich on Fox and Friends this morning talking about who really wrote the Mueller report. Here we go.
Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, and host of Newt's World podcast, and the author of a book called Collusion. Good morning to you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning. You just heard what Nancy Pelosi said. Politico is reporting that Jerry Nadler, was pushing to launch this impeachment proceeding against Trump even after the hearings yesterday. Yeah, that was last night, but then it was rebuffed by Nancy Pelosi. Your thoughts?
Well, my thought is very simple. Having watched Robert Mueller yesterday, you have to ask the question, who wrote the report? Who was in charge? It was very clear. He didn't know what was in the report. He clearly didn't have the energy and the focus to have managed a 2-year investigation. I thought it was a sad moment. When he was first appointed, I tweeted in favor of him because I thought, given his background, that he was a good choice. But it was clear, and in very few weeks, that he had turned it over to a group of left-wing, anti-Trump Democratic lawyers. And my guess is that they were the ones who ran the investigation. They're the ones who made the decisions. And frankly, I hope the Attorney General, now that we've seen how really weak and confused Mueller was, I hope the Attorney General will open an internal investigation to find out who was really making the decisions and who really is the author of this report. Yeah. And it's clearly not Bob Mueller.
They used Mueller's reputation to hide behind, well, maybe they had their own agenda, and they kept saying this Republican FBI director, war hero. Meanwhile, they were going to town, maybe perhaps with their agenda. Let me ask you something.
So it was the Democrats masquerading as the Justice Department. How do you feel about that, America? Do you want hardcore politicos with a very definite agenda who don't care about you or your family? You want them running investigations? You want them with unlimited power and money? Because that's just what happened over the last 2 years. Are you going to reward the Democrats with your vote in 2020?
Mr. Speaker, while the Speaker of the House talks about maybe impeachment, maybe not impeachment, when it comes to what the American people care about, when it comes to the economy,
You see, Democrats aren't looking for issues. They don't want values. They don't want effective policies that'll make the country better. They only want to win. Believe me, if the Democrat Party has to steamroll over you and your loved ones, they'd be happy to, if it would bring them power. If the Democrats become a 25 to 30% party, it would be the best thing imaginable for the United States, America, and our future. Yeah, we've got problems we got to solve, no question. Democrats only making the problems worse, only worse.
Person who really kind of qualifies for that is Joe Biden.
Interestingly, the fact that Joe Biden is an anus, the fact that he's been a butthole for 40 years, that doesn't bother Democrats. They're okay with that. My friends, now I know that Newt Gingrich is a genius because that is exactly what I have been predicting. Kamala Harris, who is a sad sack and a loser, she's going to be the least objectionable person. She will get the nomination and she will be swamped by Donald Trump. Item from the Daily Caller. Attorney General William Barr said Thursday the Justice Department will resume executions of federal prisoners after a nearly 20-year lapse, and immediately scheduled executions for 5 federal death row inmates convicted of murdering children and the elderly, while promising more to come. According to the Justice Department announcement, Barr directed Hugh Hurwitz, the acting director of the Bureau of Prisons, to adopt a revision to the federal execution protocol, a maneuver that, quote, clears the way for federal government to resume capital punishment after a nearly 2-decade lapse and brings justice to victims of the most horrific crimes, unquote. This is an excellent decision. It is an outrage. It is spit on the memory of those who've been murdered for their murderers to sit for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years on death row, living the life of Riley at taxpayers' expense. Found guilty of these horrific crimes, everyone's entitled to an appeal. You lose the appeal, dead! By the way, I would extend the death penalty to people who rape. You know, remember what was going on a few years ago? They were playing that game where young people would run up to an elderly citizen in the street and just punch him in the head. You remember that? I forget what they call it. I'd give the death penalty to those cancer cells also. There are an awful lot of people in America today we don't need, that will be better off without. So save me the sermons. Someone's found guilty of murder and found guilty again on appeal. Gone! One less cancer cell in the body of America. Now we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to turn off my cell phone. There we go. And we will have more real truth. That I can virtually guarantee. So don't go anywhere. All right, folks, I feel indebted to the Democrat Party. They spent so much money on the Mueller investigation. We really should talk about it some more. Here's Kellyanne Conway earlier today on Fox News.
Counselor to the president now joins me on the White House lawn. Kellyanne, thank you for being with me today. So I don't know what you could hear there of David Cicilline.
Okay. I heard it all, and frankly, I've heard it all. They're trying to do backflips and acrobatics to pretend that somehow this was about election protection, that they needed Bob Mueller there to amplify the report, and you correctly called him out. They can't make up their mind. They want to work on every investigation, every fantastical, phony, will never be indictment, every impeachment measure, and not fixing the asylum laws, not working on infrastructure, drug pricing, health care. We have so much to do in this country. And I think for a sitting member of Congress and someone on the Judiciary Committee to not just admit what everybody knows happened yesterday, which is this was seen by most Americans as a political exercise, not a legal exercise. I saw Director Mueller as somebody who resents being used and abused by people like that congressman who can't just move on with the business of America. They can't get over the 2016 election. They haven't a clue how to beat him in 2020. That's pretty obvious. And when they're not losing impeachment resolutions 323 to 95 last week, they're starting up trouble with Bob Mueller. Hey, Harris, we've seen the polling. Very few Americans actually admit to having read the Mueller report, and today we know that that includes Bob Mueller. He also didn't read the Mueller report.
There were some points of...
Folks, think about that. In television, things go by so fast, we often don't get a chance to think about it, but think about it. Bob Mueller, the Bob Mueller investigation, the Mueller report. You can go to Barnes & Noble and buy a copy of it. Bob Mueller didn't know what was in it. They didn't need Bob Mueller. They just needed his name. They needed his face on TV. Former director of the FBI, legal expert, Bob Mueller. Turns out he's a fool. A political whore. Wasn't even familiar with the Mueller report. That's the Democrats. You're going to vote for that?
Fact when it came to how much it was.
Yeah, journalists won't. Now remember, I'm a journalist. Been one for 40 years. Journalists won't. Because journalists like paychecks. And journalists know the viewpoint of the publications or the media outlets, the TV stations they work for. If they're working for a liberal outlet, and almost all journalists are, and they present a conservative viewpoint, well, guess what? Pink slip. So no, journalists aren't going to get any better magically. They're not suddenly going to find a conscience. It's not how the planet works.
Focused in on a couple of other things.
Well, let me answer for Kellyanne Conway. There was never any credibility to the Mueller report. This was always a political hit job, period. And an outrage perpetrated against the American people.
Very little, because it's very clear to many people that those investigators whom the president has correctly called out as some who have a partisan bent from the beginning, one of the top investigators was at Hillary Clinton's not so victorious victory party on election night while we were celebrating Mr. Trump's victory. And that's more important now, in my view, because I think some of those folks are using Bob Mueller to imbue this investigation and the ultimate report with his credibility and legitimacy, and he wasn't having any of it yesterday. So while we're investigating the investigators, while America has a right to know how this all got started in the first place, Strzok and Page and McCabe and the rest of them, we also should know about the process behind the scenes of the Mueller
we were all led to believe that Mueller works in quiet. He's not a camera hog. He's not going to speak for the cameras. It's all top secret. But we know that he's going to come out with an indictment and an impeachment referral. It turns out maybe he was working in secret because others were working secretively and furtively with him there in the front. We saw that yesterday.
There are some questions about how engaged she really was.
Eric Swalwell went from 0% in the polls, had to drop out of the phony, funny presidential race to being on both committees. And I'll tell you, when they were doing their mock hearing, I took my son to see the Rolling Stones in Philadelphia. That's how I prepared for Mueller, because what is there to prepare?
I'm going to jump
we knew
in.
he wasn't going to indict the president.
And I want to get to one of the members of the 4 progressive congresswomen who have been called the squad, taking fresh aim at the president. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar wrote in a New York Times op-ed, the president of the United States is using the influence of our highest office to mount racist attacks on communities.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar cannot speak without A, lying, or B, saying something anti-Semitic or racist. And by the way, shame on the New York Times, again, for the umpteenth time, for giving a piece of trash like this room on its op-ed page. Would they do the same for David Duke? They wouldn't. But Ilhan Omar, a racist, an anti-Semite, someone who despises America and who may, based on what I'm reading, may have committed crimes, she gets op-ed space on the New York Times? Do you think if I sent an op-ed to the New York Times, they would publish it? This tells you what you need to know about the New York Times. It's filth, it's a rag, it's garbage, it's trash. Which means it's just about the best liberal newspaper in the United States. By the way, I want to see Ilhan Omar investigated closely, carefully. And if it turns out the allegations are true, I want her scrawny ass out of my country as fast as possible. We'll be right back.
Was your role built between 1965 and 1975? If so, you may have an acquire family hat. These homes are around 50 years old now. It is more legible power than the of a master back today. And a little acquire does not get better with time. They have others to insure and others to sell. A little acquire there are like most of them mitigation of a little acquire hazard. All of them for a quick question now. A little acquire there. 720 4706. At ALFiberRepair.com. Don't walk away from home for checking online just because it happens with the fire. Let them help you. Your safety is their business. They are equal in rate with the Better Business Bureau. Call them today. 712-799-4706 or visit their website, ALFiberRepair.com. Why does it seem America is slowly sinking? Whose fault is it? It's not the Obamas or the Clintons. It's not Republicans or Democrats. It's not corporations, the military, or foreign countries. It's the Federal Reserve. Central banking system made up of private bankers that corrupt and control virtually all aspects of the world's money supply and economy. All of the major problems in the world trace to the Federal Reserve, central banks of other countries. Hi, I'm Jason from the Colorado Front Range Studio. Catch my show with co-host Brian here on KKNC 3 to 4 Monday to Friday. We sell gold and silver, the best way to protect your hard-earned money. Call 800-951-0592 and keep those blood-sucking bankers out of your wallet. Higher rates, lower rates, negative rates, bail-in, bail-out, and so much more. You know why you need to own gold and silver. At the Patriot Trading Group, we're a different kind of company. We have no commission salespeople, no boiler room sales calls, no high-priced spokesmen. We believe in treating you with honesty and respect and delivering you the best product at the best price. Buying or selling, call us at 800-951-0592 or go to our website at allamerican.com.
told you it was going to be a hell of a show, didn't I? Item from Breitbart: an illegal alien convict who had been previously granted refugee status by the federal government and was supposed to be deported has now been charged with murdering execution-style a Miami, Florida father of one. Illegal alien 29-year-old David Panikusper. I have no idea if that's pronounced correctly, and I couldn't care less. Panikusper has been charged with murdering 31-year-old Leandro Lopez this month after surveillance cameras captured the alleged killing in March, depicting an armed Panikusper shooting Lopez to death. Prosecutors in Massachusetts have alleged that a Lawrence teen murdered and beheaded a classmate in a jealous rage because he thought the victim slept with his girlfriend. Matthew Borges, who was 15 in 2016 at the time of the crime, was arrested and now on trial for the brutal murder and dismembering of 16-year-old classmate Lee Manuel Villoria Paulino, the New York Post reported. During the hearing in Essex County Superior Court, Assistant DA Jay Gubitosi said that investigators discovered the subject had texted his girlfriend saying, quote, "I think of killing someone and I smirk. It's all I think about every day. The next time you see me, look at my eyes because that's the last time they'll be like that. They'll be dead," Borges also reportedly texted. The victim was ultimately discovered on the banks of the Merrimack River, missing his hands and head, by a man walking his dog early in December of 2016. The victim's head was later found discarded nearby. Item from the New York Post: Senator Bernie Sanders' support in neighboring New Hampshire, where he trounced Hillary Clinton in the 2016 primary election, has fallen 6 percentage points since April, a survey found. Unquote. My friends, Bernie Sanders is out of it. Item from the Daily Mail: the man accused of killing his landlord, a beloved Louisiana activist and founder of Baton Rouge's African American History Museum, is a sex offender who had served 7 years in prison for raping an 8-year-old girl in 2004. Unquote. My friends, you're going to need to explain to me why someone who was found guilty in court of raping an 8-year-old girl is still drawing breath. Item from Breitbart: Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat in New York, unveiled a plan to give each voter $600 worth of, quote, democracy dollars, which could be donated to federal political candidates of their choice in their state. In other words, Kirsten Gillibrand wants more money, and so she's going to give it to you with the proviso you give it to her. Do you want a moron like that to be president? Item from Breitbart: Attorney General William Barr said, quote, "We have to stop using the criminal justice process as a political weapon," unquote. Absolutely right. And that's what this whole Mueller fiasco was about from day number one. It was a political weapon. Don't think it was only used against Donald Trump. It was used against you. And if you don't know that, frankly, I pity you. You need to get your head out of the sand because your life is being dismantled piece by piece by the Democrats and you don't even know it. Well, that means you got to start listening to my show every day, right? Right. All right, we're done for the week. I will be back on Monday. My friends, listen to me closely. Stay safe. Stay healthy. For Pete's sake, stay angry. Hasta luego.